All right, strap in everyone. Today, we're diving headfirst into a whirlwind 24 hours of AI, robotics, and crypto.
Pulling straight from the Exponential TOM newsletter, which I gotta say is fascinating stuff.
Yeah, it caught my eye too. And what makes it even cooler, I think, is the fact that it uses, wait for it, 3 different AI tools to break it all down.
Oh, absolutely. It's ChatGPT, Grok AI, and Gemini Deep Research all working together.
So, AI telling us about AI. That's pretty meta, don't you think?
It is, yeah, a little bit. But hey, it's the future, right?
Futures now. All right, let's jump in. First up, NVIDIA's new GB10 Superchip. Apparently, this thing is a game changer for robotics.
Especially because it can handle the massive amount of data needed for AI training, even with synthetic data.
Synthetic data, huh? So we're talking about training robots in virtual worlds before they ever hit the real one.
Exactly. Like imagine a robot surgeon practicing thousands of virtual surgeries before they ever operate on a real patient.
Okay, yeah, I'm definitely more comfortable with that idea. So faster development, safer testing, especially for stuff like, self-driving cars.
Absolutely. Way safer than just letting them loose on the streets to figure things out.
Right. Speaking of robots, Tesla's Optimus robots were all over CES this year. They were doing live tasks, and Elon Musk even hinted that they could be used for things like childcare or pet care in the future.
Yeah, I saw that. Pretty wild, right?
A little. I mean, a robot dog walker, maybe, but a robot babysitter? I don't know about that.
I think there's still a lot of work to be done before we see robots taking care of kids. We got to figure out the whole, ethics of that situation.
For sure. A lot of questions there. Okay, let's switch gears to something a bit less sci-fi. The newsletter highlighted that AI-powered wearables can now predict inflammatory bowel disease, or IBD, flare-ups up to 7 weeks in advance.
Now that's incredible, really. It shows how personalized healthcare is becoming.
I mean, early detection like that could mean better treatment, fewer hospital visits.
Exactly. It's all about using data to proactively manage health.
It's like having an early warning system for your body, right?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Okay, back to the tech world. Google DeepMind is putting together a team specifically to create realistic simulations for both gaming and robotics.
It's called world modeling, and it's going to change everything. For gamers, it means even more immersive experiences, and for robotics, it means a safe and controlled environment for robots to learn in.
So we're talking robots learning parkour in the metaverse. I'm having trouble picturing that.
Well, funnily enough, MIT researchers actually use AI-generated images to train a robot dog in parkour.
Okay, stop. That is something I need to see. Let's look that up later. But for now, let's jump over to the world of crypto. The newsletter mentioned Bitcoin dipping below $100,000, which caused a wave of these liquidations.
Yeah, liquidations basically means people who bought Bitcoin using borrowed money are being forced to sell to cover their loans. It happens when the price drops suddenly.
So a chain reaction of sorts.
Pretty much. It can be a bit of a roller coaster.
Makes sense, especially for those who bought at the peak. Okay, on a totally different note, Ivanka Trump had to issue a warning about a meme coin fraudulently using her name.
Yeah, the meme coin world is wild. You really got to be careful out there.
Seriously, folks, do your research.
Absolutely, it's crucial.
Speaking of bringing some order to the chaos, it seems the European Commission is looking into regulating stablecoins, specifically focusing on investor redemption rights.
I think that's a good thing. Stablecoins have the potential to be a bridge between traditional finance and the crypto world, but clearer regulations could help boost confidence and encourage wider adoption.
Yeah, stablecoins seem like they could be a game changer. But then the newsletter also mentioned other cryptocurrencies like Solana, and Dogecoin also took a hit, like 11% or something. Is that all tied to Bitcoin's dip?
Most likely. Altcoins, as they're called, are usually more volatile and tend to follow Bitcoin's lead.
Got it. So if Bitcoin sneezes, altcoins get a cold. Okay, but here's what I don't get. While all this is happening, the newsletter also reported that AI and crypto-focused ETFs are at an all-time high.
It's interesting, isn't it? Seems like institutional investors are seeing the long-term potential, even with the short-term volatility.
So they're betting big on the future of AI and crypto, even if there are some bumps along the way.
Exactly. They're playing the long game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like two different perspectives on the same thing. You've got your everyday investors reacting to the immediate ups and downs, and then you've got the big players looking at the bigger picture.
It's like they're seeing the forest for the trees, huh?
Exactly. They're not sweating the small stuff.
Makes me feel a little better about my own not-so-stellar crypto portfolio right now.
Well, it's always a good idea to diversify, right? Don't put all your eggs in one basket and all that.
Words to live by. But hey, maybe I am playing the long game, right? Just like those institutional investors.
Could be. But anyway, before we get sidetracked talking about personal finances, I wanted to circle back to something we touched on earlier, the whole AI and healthcare thing.
Yeah, the potential is amazing, right? Personalized treatment, early diagnosis, all that.
Absolutely. But it does raise some important questions about, data privacy.
Totally. I mean, how much information are we comfortable handing over to these systems? It's a bit of a trade-off, isn't it?
It is, for sure. As AI gets more and more sophisticated, we need to be thinking about those ethical and privacy implications.
Robust regulations are going to be key, right?
Absolutely. It's a balancing act, finding that sweet spot between innovation and, protecting individual rights.
Yeah, finding that balance is going to be crucial. Okay, let's switch gears for a minute. What about video games? I mean, AI is making them look so real these days.
It's incredible, isn't it? I mean, think back to those old games with blocky graphics. Now you've got games that are almost indistinguishable from real life. It's mind-blowing.
Seriously. But does that mean all games are going to start looking the same if AI is doing so much of the heavy lifting?
That's a good question, actually. Some people worry about that, losing that unique artistic vision that human developers bring.
Yeah, it would be a shame to lose that.
Totally. I think the key is to think of AI as a tool, It can enhance creativity, but it shouldn't replace it.
So it's a collaboration, not a competition. Okay, let's bring it back to the real world for a sec. We've talked about robots becoming more, integrated into our lives. But what does that actually mean for jobs? Are we all going to be replaced by robots?
It's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The truth is, it's complicated. Some jobs will probably become automated, yeah. But I think new jobs will also emerge that we can't even imagine right now.
So it's not as simple as robots taking over everything.
Definitely not. It's about adapting, We need to focus on education and training, giving people the skills they need to work alongside machines, not against them.
So a shift in mindset. Instead of fearing the robots, we got to figure out how to work with them.
Exactly. Think of it this way. Robots can do those repetitive, boring tasks, which frees us up to focus on more, creative and interesting stuff.
Okay, that's a good spin. Robots doing the boring stuff so we can do the fun stuff.
Exactly. But even then, there's still that question of, how much control we're willing to give up. These machines are getting smarter all the time.
Yeah, they're learning, making decisions. It could be a little unsettling.
It is. And that's why those conversations about AI ethics are so important. We need to be really thoughtful about how we develop and use this technology.
Yeah, it's like we're writing the rule book for a whole new era, huh? But okay, before we go full-on philosophy of AI here, let's swing back to crypto for a minute.
Back to crypto it is.
There was this thing in the newsletter about decentralized finance, or DeFi as they call it. I hear that term a lot, but I'm not really sure what it means.
So DeFi is basically a whole financial system that's built on blockchain technology. It's like, lending, borrowing, trading, but without the traditional banks or institutions involved.
So it's cutting out the middleman.
Exactly. The goal is to make finance more, open and transparent.
That sounds cool in theory, but also risky, right?
There are definitely risks, yeah. Security is a big one. And the lack of regulations can be a bit of a Wild West situation. But it's still early days.
Another thing to keep an eye on then, it seems like there's always something new popping up.
That's the beauty of it, right? Always something new to explore.
True. But it can be overwhelming, trying to keep up with it all.
It can be, for sure.
No.
That's where that curiosity comes in. Don't be afraid to ask questions, dive in, and learn as you go.
Like we're all students again.
Exactly. And the most important thing is to, think critically. Don't just believe everything you read online.
Good advice for life in general, really.
Absolutely.
All right, I think it's time to wrap things up and leave our listeners with a final thought, something to ponder. All right, so we've gone from robot surgeons and parkour robot dogs to the wild world of crypto and the potential of AI in healthcare.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. A whirlwind tour of the future, basically.
A future that's already here, by the looks of it.
It is, yeah. And it's moving fast. The lines are blurring between, the real world and the digital world. And I think it's important for everyone to, stay informed and be ready to adapt.
You're right. Can't just bury our heads in the sand and hope it all goes away. So if we had to boil it all down, what's the biggest takeaway for our listeners? What should they be thinking about?
I think the key thing to remember is that we're not just along for the ride, we're actually shaping this future right now with the decisions we make.
So no pressure, right?
Well, a little pressure, maybe, but it's exciting too. It means we have the power to influence how this all plays out.
Okay, but that can feel overwhelming. Like, where do we even begin?
Start with curiosity. Don't be afraid to learn, ask questions, challenge your own assumptions. The more you understand, the better you'll be able to navigate this, rapidly changing landscape.
So we're all students, again, constantly learning and evolving. I actually kind of like that. Keeps things interesting, right?
It does. But it's not just about absorbing information. It's about learning how to think critically.
Especially in the age of, like, information overload and all that.
Exactly. Got to be able to separate fact from fiction, and that takes practice.
All right, so think critically, stay curious. Got it. But before we wrap things up, I wanted to circle back to crypto for a second. We talked about Bitcoin, altcoins, stablecoins, all that, but we didn't really dive into DeFi, or decentralized finance.
Oh yeah, DeFi. That's a whole other rabbit hole.
A fascinating one, though, right? Building financial systems outside of traditional banks and institutions.
It's pretty revolutionary. The potential is huge, but it's definitely still early days.
So another thing to keep an eye on. But zooming out even further, what are some of the long-term trends we should be thinking about?
One of the biggest is convergence. You see AI, robotics, blockchain, all these different fields starting to overlap and intertwine.
It's like it's all blending together, right?
Yeah.
The lines are getting blurry.
Exactly. And that's where things get really interesting, but also really complex.
They're potentially a little bit scary. I mean, as these technologies get more powerful, we need to make sure they're being used responsibly.
Absolutely. We need to have the right ethical frameworks in place, the right regulations.
So it's not just about what we can do, it's about what we should do.
Exactly. We need to be asking those tough questions about the potential impact of these technologies, both positive and negative.
Makes you think, doesn't it? Okay, so if our listeners take away one thing from this whole conversation, what should it be?
The future is not predetermined. It's something we're creating every single day. So stay informed, stay engaged, stay curious.
Great advice. Well, on that note, I think we've reached the end of our journey. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the world of technology and innovation.